Hey everybody, so this is going to be a slight rant on taxes. I have learned the hard way. I'm still learning. I'm self-educating myself continually on taxes. I'm always open to learning more. Maybe I ought to just take a CPA course one year. I have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and different Robert Kiyosaki books. I do have on my Amazon wish list Rich Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's book he wrote with his CPA that's on my list to get and read. And I was having a conversation with a young man the other day, and he was explaining to me how he's gone to a certain tax preparer whose name will remain anonymous in case any of you have dear friends, family members, or work for them yourself. And I learned my first year after graduating from college, and I went to them to do my taxes. And I had an experience where I needed to get my return or a copy of my return, and they made it very difficult for me to get a copy of my return. It made me feel like I was at fault or something was wrong with me. And again, I'm going back 40 years ago, okay? So I don't remember everything in detail, but it wasn't the best experience. And then I learned, and I got recommended to a woman who went on to become a CPA who did taxes. And she explained to me, never go to a tax preparer because they don't know the laws like CPAs are required to know the tax laws, the tax code. Which, by the way, as you know, the tax code is like 70,000, 80,000 pages. It's never, those laws are never deleted, but they're just added to every year, which is why CPAs have to maintain certification so that they can stay up to date on the latest, newest changes to the tax code, which happens every year, I believe. So, again, I am an advocate for CPAs and using a CPA to do your taxes. Now, CPAs are not necessarily business people, entrepreneurs. They are certified. They have to pass an exam, public accountants. So their job, and I'll use a sports analogy, is similar to that of a referee, okay? So they are not going to tell you how to take legal steps in preparing your taxes or how to best navigate the tax code. Their job is simply a referee. They are required by law to report you if you do something wrong, and they are to advise you of what's right and wrong and represent you if you are audited. Still, much better to have a CPA than one of these national franchised tax preparation places, in my opinion, based on my personal experience. Because I then went to that said tax preparing company a second time in my current marriage, which was against my wishes and better judgment, but I went to appease my wife, but also I didn't do the research and find a CPA that I could go to. We were in between CPAs. My wife, her experience has been to use a certain tax preparing company, and she lucked out. She got a gentleman who was retired. He personally cared about her situation and looked out for her, and he did, I guess, a good job. But keep in mind, these tax companies, tax preparation companies, take you and me, anybody off the street that wants that job, put you in front of a video for a couple of weeks, I guess, and then sit you down in an office, and people come in off the streets, they sit in front of you and your computer, and you plug and play. You plug numbers into a computer program, it spits it out. They do not know tax law extensively or are required to know law like CPAs are. And if anybody differs with what I'm saying, if what I'm saying is not accurate, please, by all means, put that in the comments and let's discuss it so that I can be accurate. But I am not a fan, I am not in favor of going to a tax preparation agency. I am totally for using a CPA. Now, they don't know all things. And again, they're not business people. They're not going to tell you how to maximize your business. They're going to tell you how to stay in the lines of the tax code. But I would rather go to a CPA than a tax preparation agency. That's my rant. What are your experiences? Put those in the comments below. And the last story I'll end with is, so there's something called the Augusta Rule. Well, the Augusta Rule in non-CPA terms is where you can, with a home-based business, deduct a 3-foot wide area from your front door to your bathroom, and again, a 3-foot wide, and then the length from your front door to your home office. That square footage, you then take and you divide the entire square footage of your residence, and that percentage is what you can legally deduct for your utilities, your rent or your mortgage, utilities, your rent, your mortgage, I believe your homeowner's insurance, but again, consult with your CPA. But that percentage you can now deduct to lower your tax liability by having a home-based business. I encourage everyone to have a home-based business. Why? So that you can take advantage of the tax code. Our founding fathers were entrepreneurs. They were business owners. They didn't have jobs. They weren't employees. The tax code was written for entrepreneurs, for business owners. So if the tax law was written and created by business owners, don't you think you at least need to have a home-based business so you can take advantage of the tax code? Here's another misconception. I thought I was going to end with that story of the Augusta Rule, which I'll circle back to. But that is the Augusta Rule, okay? And that came about from the wealthy people in Augusta, Georgia, who rent out their homes for 1 week during the year for the PGA, the PGA golf tournament that happens in Augusta every year. And they rent these beautiful mansions, and that 1 week's worth of rent is a tax deduction, and they pretty much pay their mortgage for the year with what they charge for renting a home in Augusta, Georgia during the golf tournament, which I can't believe I can't remember the name of it. It's not the Memorial. It's the Green Jacket. You know what I'm talking about. So that's the Augusta Rule. April 15th, the April 15th filing deadline. You know who that's for? That's for Warren Buffett, Drake, Nicki Minaj. That's for wealthy people. That's for Bill Gates, LeBron James. Why? Because on August 15th, wealthy people most likely write a check to the IRS. They're not getting a tax refund. Think about it. So if you get a tax refund, what that means in CPA, non-CPA language, what that means is you have overpaid your tax liability for that tax year to the government. They've used your overpayment. They're going to give it back to you the next year, refund, with no interest. So think about it this way. Let's say, just for the sake of math, you overpaid by $1,000. So you get a refund of $1,000. The IRS, the federal government, used that $1,000 the year before because you overpaid. They didn't tell you during the year you overpaid. You overpaid during the year. They give it back to you. They used it the previous year, and they're giving it back to you with no interest, by the way. But they made money on it, or they used it to continue our debt, national debt. And there you have it. That's a refund. So when people are talking about, oh, I'm getting a refund, and now you have these commercials and you have these companies that are advertising about use our service and you can get an advance on your tax refund for the year, they're just continuing to perpetrate the misinformation and the negative mindset that you want to get a tax refund. I don't want to get a tax refund. I don't want to have to pay the government more than I absolutely have to. I don't like stroking that check to them, which isn't a totally bad thing. It just means you got to look at your strategy again. You got to work with your CPA and figure out things you could do to not have to pay as much. They're already getting money from my job. They're already getting their taxes. I want them to get their fair share and not a penny more. Not 1 penny more. I don't want a refund because that means I've overpaid in my tax liability for the previous year. So the work comes back on me. Now, granted, I'm not going to give them back any tax refund I may get, but I'm not looking for a income tax check. I'm not looking for an income tax refund. You shouldn't either. Work with a CPA, learn and understand taxes. I don't know it all. I'm still learning. But again, you don't want a refund. I mean, you're not going to give it back either, but your goal shouldn't be to get an income tax refund each year. Your goal should be to work with the CPA and maximize and pay the government everything you need to pay them by law that you owe them, but how you can do better. That should be your goal. And learning, educating yourself on taxes and how the wealthy use taxes, how the wealthy utilize a CPA and a tax attorney. That should be your goal, not an income tax check, an income tax refund. That should not be your goal, and you shouldn't have to pay every year. And if you're paying every year, you really need to examine what you're doing and work with the CPA and start a home-based business so you can utilize tax deductions legally. That's my tax rant for the day. Love you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking. Thanks for sharing. And thanks for supporting. Talk soon.